Good morning. Welcome back to the shop. Do you remember a time when pallet projects were all the rave on social media? Well, maybe they still are. But if so, I'm going to show you today the coolest and probably only pallet project that you should be making. Stay tuned. Now let me show you how I made these. These are pallet coasters. This is not a new novel idea. You can find pallet coasters on Etsy or a couple other people make them. But what makes mine unique, or these particular ones unique, is the fact that they're made from an actual real pallet. And I started out with these slats from an old pallet that I had. And these pallet slats are approximately about 1/2 inch wide. Or 1/2 inch thick, sorry. And that's essentially what I started with to make this pallet, to make this coaster. This coaster is 4 inches long by 3.5 inches wide by about 1/2 inch thick. So it's almost an exact replica of the pallet that I used. This pallets, as you know, are utilitarian. They're not really designed to be pretty. They're functional for holding items such as my coffee cup, and then that's it. They can be thrown away after that. Hopefully, I don't make them and just use them one time and throw them away, but you get the point. So pallets are fairly simply made, crudely made for the most part, because again, they're designed to be thrown away. So I wanted mine to be unique by making it look as realistic as possible, yet functional. So this pallet, or these are made up just like a normal pallet. They have 3 items which are called skids, and those are the main structure of the pallet. I only used one single tool for this, and that was my bandsaw. It gave it a very rough cut to it, and frankly, it made it very realistic looking. You could probably use other things such as a scroll saw, a chisel, some smaller hand tools like coping saws and whatnot, if you would like that way, if you don't have a bandsaw. But I like the way the bandsaw made it very rough, rustic kind of look. So we'll go over a little bit about how this is made and the parts within it. The first part, which there was only 2 parts of this, is the skids. And these again are the main structure. These are 1/4 inch wide, 1/4 inch, basically 1/4 inch square, and 4 inches long. To make the skids, which is where the forks will go into if it was a real pallet, I come in 3/8 of an inch from each side, and then 7/8 of an inch from there, and then roughly centered right up the middle, and just kind of roughly cut this area out, and that allows your area for your skid forks to go into. The other part to this is your slats. And in this case, you have 4 along the bottom and 7 on the top that are roughly spaced equally. I just used a spare piece, set it in place, and secured each skid down as I went along. Now it's secured down with just super glue, basic super glue, nothing fancy. You could use wood glue if you'd like. You could maybe use some very small brad nails, but super glue works perfectly fine for what it does. It's very stable. So I didn't really do anything on that, and I can batch them out really quick. That being said, I created this essentially a very rough jig. And the way this jig works is I can take my skid pieces and I set them down. They're already set up like so. And then take my slats, glue here, already set it up. And then you essentially can glue these down And now this is very square, lined up, so that you don't have an issue when you go to other. As soon as it's glued, you can just pull this whole structure right out of the jig. And now you are ready to start placing your top slats. Placing it flat on the table, laying a slat down, having a spare cutoff piece, and then just continue to do the process all the way across. As far as finishing goes, I didn't do too much on this. Again, it's a rough pallet. I have a small sanding block here with 220 grit sandpaper. I just went over the entire piece, took off all the rough edges, everything to make it kind of, so you don't get splinters in your hands. Cleaned it up, kind of roughly smoothed it out, and then I sprayed it with a coat of just basic spray lacquer. Nothing fancy, but it's functional. A couple people have really liked it. So if you're interested in this type of content, please feel free to like and subscribe. And you guys have a great day. Thanks a lot.